I'm just curious. Anybody missed this year over the summer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big time.
Like Kessin.
For sure.
Here's the proof. Here's the proof.
Here's the proof.
What? The proof, eh?
Well, yeah. People came on time.
Power.
What I'd like to speak about today, I thought it would be interesting to do that, is talk about what's happening now and why. 21st century, divine agenda. There are so many things going on today that, you know, it's even hard to keep track. I mean, right now, the U.S. is faced with a crisis called Ebola. That's number one, you know. Then, of course, you have ISIS as number two, right? You have what's happening there, it's Israel, so many things, the war, the 3 kids that were kidnapped. You have the government that's anti-Haredi. You have Russia. I mean, there are so many things going on. It's like a hefka, you know. So the real question is, how do we understand all this? Does this make sense from some type of a plan, a divine plan? And the answer is, of course it does, you know. And the truth is, a lot of stuff really could have been predicted. But even without the prediction, once you have an understanding of what has to be, you see, the plan itself, toward what's called tikkun, then you have an understanding of who are the characters or who are the players. It's really what it is. Once you understand the plan, then you can say, okay, who's Moshe, you know, who are the players here, you know? It's like anything else. You know, there's a plot and then there's a cast of characters. Who are the cast of characters? And then it becomes much easier to identify the cast of characters. So everything really lies in the plot. It's really where everything lies. Most people have no idea what the plot is. Forget about the cast of characters. And if they do have some idea, it's always what's called fragmented. They see a little idea here, nice, a little idea here, nice, and so on. But they don't see the panorama of how everything interacts. And that's really the critical concept here, is to see the panoramic stage and so on. You know, so I thought it'd be interesting tonight to go through this. But obviously, like I said, before you can understand the cast of characters, you have to understand what? Plot. You know, what's called the scene, the scenario, or what's called the script. Right? It's like a Hollywood script, you know? Before you understand the play, the movie, whatever, what's the script all about? So, what I'd like to talk is talk about the script and then, of course, identify the characters. So, some of the ideas I've said, of course, I've said before. So you'll be familiar with them. There's no question about that. But it's always important to remember the original script. And besides, there are people listening to this that never heard the original script, you know. And this is going to be put on the internet. Many of them never heard it, so I will have to go through the original script to some extent, not much, and then to bring it into the 20th century, and then talk about the characters themselves. And when I get finished, you will really understand that the Ribono Shel Olam runs the world. Period. There's no more wow, who's running the shop? That God runs the world, number one. And number two, what you also understand is that a lot of this is hidden. It's subtle. And so on, where you don't really see the logic. You know, like I always say, the greatest chess master of all is God. It's a chess game. You know, imagine you watch a chess game with, grandmasters, right? And you see this guy's thinking, and this guy moves a piece. And the other guy moves a piece. Each one's moving pieces. You have no idea what's going on here. You don't understand the logic behind the pieces. All you see is what's called the piece being moved. But you have no idea of what the logic or what the strategy is. You see. And I said before that a grandmaster, somebody's really very good, how many moves ahead can he see? It means if you move a piece, how many moves ahead can he predict? What's called the combinations. Well, if you move this, then 1 is possible, 2 is possible, and then if you move that, something, it's like enormous. So I once read that the predictions can go up to a guy a grandmaster. These guys, I remember these guys live in chess. They analyze thousands and thousands of different types of positions. They can see approximately 15 moves ahead, which is astounding. We can't even see 2, and 3 max, forget it, These guys can see 15 moves ahead. It means whatever you do, he can see basically all the combinations that can come out of that move. So he does. Then you move something else, a new set of combinations, and so on. I mean, I would say that's why these guys are world-class players. The Rosh Hashem, however, is a grandmaster to beat all grandmasters. But what he does is interesting. He will move one chess piece of something that will occur in 1,000 years. That's the incredible thing about the difference between him, and the chess master. Although it's a game of chess, you only see like, wow, that's interesting. That's interesting that in 1982 or 81, Iraq and Iran had a war. Okay. Of course, at that time, I wish both of them victory. They should both be matzliach at that time. And but like, why is there a war in 1981 or it was in 81? I'm not sure if it was 81 or 82. You remember the Iraqi-Iran war? They killed each other. They were butchering each other. So then the question, of course, is what's the story here? Well, the interesting from hindsight, which you have to be able to see, is that what the Russian wanted, clearly, now you can see it. I mean, most people can't see it even now, but if you think about it, what you can see is that what the Russian wanted to do, okay, is to make Iraq, is the U.S. supported Iraq against Iran, if I remember correctly. They actually supplied weaponry to Saddam Hussein, and so on. And then, of course, now that Iraq was at this incredible military power, in fact, in 1991, I think it was, 1991, when Saddam Hussein tried to capture, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, and all of his weapons came to the United States, which is amazing, And he was regarded at that time the 5th greatest military power in the world. That's what they thought he was, because they thought he had weapons of mass destruction, And he did have an incredible army. His Republican Guard is obviously quality stuff. So he had what's called enormous credibility. And when he turned against the interests of the United States, which he did, and all those Scud missiles, everything was flying around and so on, and then of course all the Scud missiles against Israel and so on, then the U.S. turned against him. And Bush made it a vendetta, or Clinton, whatever. The major vendetta was against Iraq, and ultimately they took out Iraq, and so on. So the question was, how do we understand this? When you think about it, what happened really was, it wasn't Iraq that's the enemy, it was Iran. So what the Hashem did, very interestingly enough, he took away the world's attention from Iran. And Iraq became the enemy, which is very bad. Because the real enemy to civilization, which we now know, is Iran. But the Hashem wants Iran to succeed, which we'll get into. That's why, even then I knew that nothing will stop Iran. All this business with the UN, and the Atomic Energy Commission visiting Iran, all of this is nonsense. The Hashem wants Iran to be a major threat to the world. And so on. So what he had to do was take off the world's attention to Iran. Why did he do that? By supplying Iraq with everything, then putting a Michigan like Saddam Hussein. All of a sudden the whole world's attention is now to Iraq, right? And Clinton, whatever, the whole thing was against, obviously, Iraq and so on.
The Tubush, the father the first time. And the sun the second time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And therefore, that diverted. It was Iraq was nothing more than a diversion. That's what you see. So what happened? The Russians moved the chess piece, in 1981, that nobody would see, because ultimately speaking, he wants Iran to become a nuclear nation, which is interesting. You see, that's a classic example of what the Russian does. Except the problem is we don't see the chess moves. Only he does. You see, and that chess move can go long before that. Those things go back centuries, what the Russian will do, and so on. So, listen, you can't beat the Russian in this chess game, The only thing we can do is try to have some kind of a handle on the divine plan, and then try to identify the characters and what are the phases of the divine plan. That's all we can do, really. However, most people don't even have a clue as to what is happening now. Why? Because they don't really have a grasp of the divine plan. So, there are many things about the plan, obviously, but the most essential part that I want to deal with, which I've said before, but you need to repeat it again because this is what's happening today and so on. And that is that in the beginning, it's all of a sudden you realize that, wait a minute, where is the beginning? How far back does it go? And then you say, well, it goes all the way back to here. And then you say, wait a minute, how much time do I have for this anyway? So, yet all of this ultimately is necessary really to understand, what's going on. Anyway.
Bereshit.
Yes.
Okay.
It's amazing how significant Bereshit is,
Yeah.
In fact, to understand what's happening today with Ebola, you have to go back to Noach. Because the answer what's happening today lies in the Parsha of Noach. Well, today was just Lech Lecha, and so on. But anyway, we know that the relationship between the Satan and Klal Yisrael has changed. Very important idea, which I'm sure I've mentioned before. And that is that in the beginning, Adam's job was to ignore the advice of the Satan. Don't listen to this guy. Okay, it's not just Adam, obviously, but it's Adam and Chava. Don't listen to the Satan. Your job is to keep him out of your world. The Nochash HaKadmoni, which is the primordial snake, is the spokesman for the Satan. And that snake offers an argument. A very shrewd argument. The main idea being that, hey, you can be God. B'yism Kelokim. You can be God. Well, that was very enticing to Adam Rishon and obviously Chava. And they fell for it. And they ate from the tree. Now, until then, the Satan, of course, had nothing to do, really, with the Bria. He was an individual Malach, represented by this Nachash. And his job, of course, to entice. And it was Adam's job, as I said, to ignore the advice of the Satan. However, they failed. So what the Russian did, now there are many significant ideas that happened, the consequences of this failure, enormous. And we obviously are caught up in this incredible significance of that failure. But one of the ideas that I want to dwell on is that the relationship between the Satan and Adam changed. Now, if you recall what I once said, that until then, as I said, the job was to ignore the advice of the Satan. But what happened is that the Baruch said, listen, you gave voice, you gave credibility to the Satan, which means that you gave it existence. The amazing thing about man is that whatever we give credibility exists. And if we give it more credibility, it has power. Its existence is enhanced. The greater credibility, the greater the power of that which we create, because we are able to create things, which is only a God can do, and so on. So what happened was, is by listening to something, ultimately, we gave it existence. And when Cain and Hevel, rather Cain sinned, he gave it power, shlita. In any case, therefore the Moshe told Adam Rishon, hey, your job is now different. You created the God, you need to kill him. It's not enough to ignore evil, you need to eradicate evil, obliterate, destroy, annihilate, demolish, and all other synonyms for the adjective, or now a verb. In any case, you need to get rid of this guy. In other words, you need to eradicate evil because you gave it existence. That question is, okay, how do we do that? How do you eradicate evil? How do you kill a malach? Because that's the Satan. So what the Moshe did is, what he did was amazing. All of us exist because there's a divine influx of enormous energy, or kedusha, or shefa, that goes from the Moshe to everything that exists. So Moshe creates and he maintains the existence of everything. So therefore, what he did, even the Sultan has this connection to God. We're all connected to God, an invisible cable. So what the Moshe did is he took the cable of the Sultan, cut it, and before the Sultan was about to vanish, he connected it to the cable of Adam, which creates and sustains Adam. So now you have a cable coming down, figuratively speaking, comes down and it splits. Part of it goes into Adam Harishon, and the other part goes into the Sun.
So originally the cable was, there was such
Each one
cable.
has its individual connection to God, Shefa, independent of anything else.
Okay.
But what the Moshe did is he married or integrated the cable of the Satan, he connected it to Adam Harishon. It's astounding. Now, so what? The answer is because there's only enough Shefa for one side to exist and to flourish. Terrible. So therefore, there's what's called a cosmic battle for existence. And the only way that, the question is, what influences? Yeah, there's one. The only question is, which way does that power go? And the answer to that, it's up to Adam, not the Son. If Adam does the mitzvahs, if Adam does the mitzvahs, then the shefa or kedusha or energy, whatever you want to call it, that allows man to exist, grows, and he gets stronger. Adam flourishes. Right? What does that mean? It means he becomes more ruchni. He has greater access to truth. Ruchni is whatever. Parnasa. It's called bracha. What happens to the Satan? The Satan's power diminishes slowly. And if Adam does more mitzvahs, then the Satan gets sick. And if Adam does all the mitzvahs, the Satan dies. Whatever the concept of death is, whether it means that his job ceases or he himself dies, let's not get into what happens to the Satan when it's all over. But the key concept here is that Adam can destroy the Satan if he does the will of God. That is the key concept. Okay. What happens if Adam sins? Then the Satan gets the Kedusha. That's a very important concept called yoinek. That the Satan is unique, nourishes from the Kedusha. And he grows. And that's called diversion. Very important balance here. In fact, the Satan is the only malach that can grow. Because his growth and diminishment, or diminution, right, is exactly what the task of man is. You see. So if Adam does the sins, then the Satan grows, and that's called diversion, the growth of evil. Okay. And what happens to the Satan? Satan goes wild. He's able to yoinik from the Kedusha of an Adam, okay, take the power of what Adam should have gotten if it would have been a mitzvah. He gets from the sin, and he's able to therefore generate enormous amount of power to the Umas Olam, to the nations of the world, or to anybody that contemplates evil to the Jews. Doesn't make a difference. He grows, and the Odom diminishes. He gets sick and so on. Okay. Therefore, this balance is very interesting. This balance is called combat. For those who have a military mind, it's called combat. The Satan is no longer interested in getting us to sin because that's his job. He has been given a self-interest. His interest is to survive. So he needs to get us to sin or he dies. And his entire entourage, which is called the Sitra Achra, dies with him. Interesting balance. It's combat. It's like a seesaw. So when Adam is up because he's doing the mitzvahs, the Satan is down. If Adam is doing the sins, then Adam is down and the Satan is up. That's called a reciprocal relationship or a seesaw relationship. Where do we see this? Different places, but one of the major places we see is by Esau. Who is the Malach of Esau? The Satan. The Satan is the Malach of Esau. And it's interesting, by Esau it says, one nation will be greater than the other. Meaning that Yaakov will be greater than, well, it doesn't even say. So Rashi says, who's the Malach of Esau? The Satan. Right? And one nation will be greater. What does that mean? That if what? That they can never be equal. That means if Yaakov does the, if Yaakov is high, Esau is low, or vice versa. That's called an inverse or reciprocal relationship. Why is that? Because that's the exact same relationship that the Satan has with Adam, and replace Adam now with Klal Yisrael. You see. So Klal Yisrael has that relationship with Esau or whatever. And therefore, that's where you learn. That our relationship with Esau and therefore his malach is reciprocal or inverse. If we grow in Kedusha, he diminishes. If he grows in what's called Yuniko, we diminish. That's an open statement about why Yaakov has that relationship with Esau. Because it's based on the original relationship between Adam Harishon and the malach, the Satan. Great. So this is what we see. There's a critical balance in the Bria between us and the Satan. We either give rise to the evil or we destroy evil. It's one or the other. There's no such thing where evil doesn't do anything. That's one very important concept. A second very important concept is this. What is the task of a Jew, really? You'll have all kinds of asks. If you walk over to anybody and say, what's your tafkid? What is the real tafkid of a Jew? Almost invariably, what are they going to answer? To the mitzvahs. Is that true? Yes. But is that the real bottom line? No, not at all. No, it's not the bottom line. So of course they look at you and say, whatever happened to you, and so on. But the real task is different. The Russian created a Bria. He uses 10 spheres. He emanates 10 spheres. The spheres, whatever they are, create realities. It creates an entire dimension. So it creates the first reality. In Kabbalah it's called Adam Kadmon, primordial man. Whatever, that's an Olam. It's a dimension, which by the way happens to be Olam Haba. And then what happens is that the energy of the spheres degrade, not literally, but it looks like it degrades, so it creates another reality, and another reality, okay? It creates 5 realities, okay? The 5th one is Olam Asiya, which is this world. And it's created because there seems to be a degradation, or rather a diminution, in the aura of the spheres. So all of a sudden, Olam Hazeh pops out. You have a physical universe, which is a result of that, the diminution of those spheres. So here's what is the essential feature of Olam Hazeh? Right? We would think, although it's a very good argument to say this, the essential feature really of Olam Hazeh is that 24-hour kugel. That's the feature. Taiva. All kinds of phenomenal stuff. That's not really what its essential feature. The essential feature of Olam Hazeh is the Hester of the Rebbeinu Shalom himself. It is a place devoid not literally but figuratively, of the presence of God. It means if you're in Olam Hazeh, you just do not see the Rasham. If you're one world above that, which is Yitzira, he's all over the place. That's the incredible difference between all the Olamas. And if you go higher, it's a greater degree of presence. And higher, it's a greater degree of presence. But in all the Olamas above Olam Haba, above this world, Asiya, there's always a degree of presence of the Baruch. But this world is unique. The Baruch has never done that before. In fact, the ability or the fact that there is an existence in which the Baruch is not present is unbelievable. How could you have a God that is the cause of all reality concealed? It's beyond belief. But the Baruch did it in order to provide a mokum, the sign, whatever, without getting to the purpose and so on. Now, therefore, what does he do? He creates Adam, and he says to the following. He says, Adam, here's your job. Your job is to regress or retransform Olam Hazeh into Olam Haba. That is your job. You need to retransform this world into Olam Haba. You have to reverse the process of the amount of Hester that is present, which is an amazing concept. So if they ask you, where is Olam Haba? The answer is, it's here. It is not another place. It is here. Except, wow, it's here. I know there are many people that say Taka Olam Haba is here. And they act on it. They actually live as if this is Olam Haba, you know. But Olam Haba is here, but not now. So the job of Adam and the job of a Jew is to retransform Olam Hazeh into Olam Haba. That means this world itself will retransform into a different universe. You know, there are many examples of that, whatever. But fundamentally, Olam Hazeh is really Olam Haba. What is this? Why are there so many people here?
It's being retransformed. The fire closes.
Exactly. This is the beginning of the Zikuch.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's that time. We need this.
That concept or that principle where Olam Hazeh becomes Olam Haba, the Ramchal calls Zikuch. Zikuch means to be purified. What does purification mean? It means to remove a foreign element in a substance. Musakeh means if you have a substance, right, and it's contaminated with a foreign substance, right, it's contaminated substance. So to purify something means to remove the foreign element and to just have left the pure substance. This Bria has contamination, you see. It has several aspects of contamination, which I'm driving at, and so on. In any case, that is the purpose. One of the interesting remozim to that is that there's a Sefer HaBahir, which is one of the greatest Kabbalistic texts, which comes before the Zohar, which they attribute the authorship to Rabbi Nechuni ben Akona. Sefer HaBahir. Anyway, so the Bahir says something very interesting, which I've said before, and that is that if I want to say the future world, how do I say it? So we normally say Olam Haba, but Olam Haba is a wrong term, you see, because it really, in really correct Hebrew, it should be Olam Sheyavoy, the world to come, you see. So the Bahir says that the word Olam Haba doesn't mean the world to come, it means the world that came, Haba. It's a murdic idea. So therefore, we want to transform this world into Olam Haba, the world that came first, because that was the first world the Rebbeinu Shem created. He created Olam Haba first, which is Olam Haba, and then it diminished from there. And our job is to retransform or to get back to Olam Haba. You see, that's the purpose. That's called Tikkun. Zikuch of Olam Hazeh is the Tikkun of the Bria. The question, how is it done? It's done through the mitzvahs. And I'm not going to go into the connection between that and so on, because my purpose isn't that. It's to ultimately get into the 21st century. But anyway, this is a very important yediyus that you need to know. One, that the essential tikkun of the Bria is called zikuch, retransformation. It is done through mitzvahs, okay, and then ultimately speaking, this world will transform. Now, the greatest transformation that will take place in, hopefully in our lifetime, is what? What's the first zikuch? That's really what it is. Anybody know? You know. What is it? What's the first stage of the zikuch? Who? Mashiach. Yeah. Why is the Messianic so different, the era so different? Because that's zikuch. That's really all it is. Klal Yisrael will have done enough mitzvahs or whatever that they will have been mezakech olam hazeh and have removed enough, which we will see what it is, in order to bring down the Yemais Mashiach. And then there will be further zikuch, which is the 7,000th year, then the 8,000th year, then the 9,000th year. It takes thousands of years to undo the contamination. And then ultimately, in the beginning of the 9,000th year, is the beginning of Olam Haba, you see. But our main purpose, what we really want, I mean, you can wait around for thousands of years, but we don't really care so much. The main thing is to end this world with the Messiah Mashiach. Because once that happens, then it's all over, you know. Okay, you know, it's like somebody gives you, you know, one vial of, I hate to use this example, but somebody gives you one vial of, you know, drugs, heroin, you know, and you just go high, and, you know, meanwhile, you'd say, this isn't enough, I need a bigger high, and a bigger high. But the main thing is the first shot of heroin, because that takes you out of your misery. I don't want it to seem that I'm pushing drugs, however. And Yemais Mashiach is nothing more than zikuch. That's really what it is. But it's not zikuch of the guf, it's a zikuch of the or. The Hester. It's the beginning of the end of the Hester. I once mentioned, what Mashiach does is he removes ignorance. That's all he does. You see, he removes ignorance, where all of a sudden there's an enormous amount of ha'ora, which is light and so on, and he removes the ignorance, which is darkness, and that's all he does. There's no difference in terms of the physicality. You know, you still have to go to work, although, who knows, not really, whatever, and so on. But there's an enormous end to a tremendous amount of things, golas and so on, you know. But what's the process that allows the Messianic light, that's really what it is, to come in? And the answer is, zikuch. That's what it is. We have removed one of the impurities of the Bria. Got it? Okay. This is really going down a real introduction. Okay, another concept, that there are three ways to remove or to mazakich the Bria. Very important. The Baruch gave mitzvahs. I said that was the instrument. So if you ask the person, what is the tachaf of a yid? The answer is zikuch. How do we do it? And the answer is mitzvahs. But the Baruch knew that a great deal of clients will not do the mitzvahs. So what he did in his chesed, he said, I'm going to give you another tikkun device. And that's what it is. What is that tikkun device? Tshuva. Tshuva is a very interesting kind of mitzvah, basically. It is an undoing of the testimony that you said. When you did a chet, you do tshuva, means you are moiden, you have charot, and so on. You recant the testimony you said, that I am equal to God and I can do whatever I want. Getting into tshuva. But tshuva is a second method of tikkun. But the Rosh knew that Klal Yisrael would not do tshuva many times. So he gave a third method, and that's called yisurin. The concept of yisurin, which I had mentioned many times, is not punishment. In many ways, it's what's called a correction. Okay, it's a correction of what a person did. But it's not through tshuva, it is through yisurin, and so on. In any case, those are three tikkun devices. Mitzvahs, tshuva, and yisurin. That's fundamentally the way Klal Yisrael is masaking the Bria, and we have been doing those three for thousands of years. First it was mitzvahs, tshuva, and now it's mostly yisurin. There are millions of forms of yisurin, golas, yisurin, persecutions. It's all forms of yisurin. Anyway, and this is what's happening. Okay, so that's a very important idea. Now, the next idea is that, wait a minute, if we relate to the Sultan in terms of combat, and he actually grows, he clearly is in possession of a lot of our stuff. I mean, this guy's running around, he's wealthy, you know. He has this incredible bank account. He's got all our money. That's why he's called the Great Goslin, you know. He's a great thief, he's a thief. Because it's not his Kedusha, it's really ours. Our problem is that we give it to him. This is the problem. In other words, that establishes a very fundamental rule. That if we don't do a mitzvah, so we would say, well, I forgot to mention one thing, that when you do a mitzvah, what happens is you bring down the ore. That's what a mitzvah does. It energizes the spheres to emit a certain amount of ore, which brings more zikuch. Now, why it's not mezakech the bria every time Klal Yisrael does a chet is because of the chet of Diminishing, which I'm not going to go down to. But this is the problem.
Every time Kessin does a mitzvah.
Yes.
Well, it's not mezakech.
It is mezakech. But the zikuch cannot, materialize, or I should say, it cannot dematerialize. It has to be stored.
Okay.
And I'll explain why. Okay. The problem then is, okay, so therefore, it's all stored. And in the Moshe Mashiach, or after the 6,000 years, when it's over, even the Moshe Mashiach, all that savings account that Klal Yisrael put will be let out, energize the spheres, and then the spheres begin to do their work. Where they pour incredible amount of shefa into the bria, and all of a sudden it begins to lift and lift. And ultimately, of course, it lifts to such extent where Olam Haba happens. In any case, so as I said before, but the Sultan has a lot of stuff. So therefore there are two jobs. We need to take all the stuff back, right? This is the problem. Now when the Sultan has stuff, when he has Kedusha, because he's yoinik from the Chatoim of Klal Yisrael, what happens is he grows in stature and he grows in power. What he is therefore able to do, the concept that is tied to his power is called zoyama. Zoyama is pollution, whatever you want to call it, contamination. Zoyama is his input into things. It's like an octopus that has tentacles, you see. So the tentacles of the Sultan is a zoyama, you see. So the zoyama, because of the chet of Diminishing, has invaded the bria. We live in a bria saturated with zoyama. The more chatoim we do, the greater is the kedusha we give him, the greater is the zoyama. You see. And it's terrible. In fact, when Klal Yisrael sinned, not Klal Yisrael, in the days of Noach, because they did so many chatoim, they filled the world with zoyama, which is astounding. And the Ramchal gives an interesting mashal. How much zoyama, how much power did the Sultan have? And how much influence was he able to pervade the bria? So he says, which I always find incredible, he says, if you look at the relationship between the space of the Teva, the ark, and compare it to the space of the waters of the entire world that covered everything, that was the relationship. That means all the Kedusha that was left out of the hands of the Sultan was as big as the Teva, the ark. And everything else represented his Zoyama. That's why Moshe destroyed the world. He says, ridiculous. Can't go on like this, you see. Anyway, so therefore that's what happens. Now here's the problem. Therefore our tikkun, or our zikuch, is mostly focused on what? His stuff. We've got to take back all the kedusha away from him. And therefore, the first thing that will collapse is the zoyama collapses. He has no energy. And then what happens is he becomes sick. You see. And the problem that he has is that Medicare does not cover a Sultan that is sick and has no zoyama. So he cannot even pay for the medical. Besides, there is no hospital that would accept a patient called a Sultan. So he dies. This is what happens. So therefore, our job is to take out the zoyama out of the Sultan. And Kabbalah calls it, I should collapse the zoyama. And the way we do that is by taking out his shefa, his kedusha. And in Kabbalah it's referred to as nitzotzei kedusha. sparks of holiness. That there are a lot of sparks, without getting into that he has, and we give that to him, and we need to gather up all those sparks, take it out of his possession, and all of a sudden the bria changes.
So how is that different than the zikuch, the first idea, the zikuch process? The first idea was the zikuch, the second idea was the 3 types of zikuch.
Yeah.
And where is the third idea different? No, the
I don't
third
see what he
concept.
has.
The third concept. You brought 3 concepts. The first was zikuch.
Yeah, I mentioned the concept that our tafkid is zikuch.
The second
Then I said,
concept
is the
was
way to do it is 3 ways.
And what's the third idea?
The third idea I'm telling you now is zoyamo, that our tafkid now becomes 2 things. One is to remove the zoyama by taking away the kedusha, the sparks of holiness, collapsing the zoyama, collapse him, and then bring down the rest of kedusha from the spheres. That's our job. And once the rest of it comes down, the bria changes. That's what happens. The problem is, what we have, like I said, is that if we do a sin, it's not that there's no energy from the spheres. It's that a lot of the stuff goes to the Satan. This is our problem. So we actually create evil. This is what's happening.
Could you just give a quick definition for me of Kedusha? Because I associate it with Hashem, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. How the concept, I don't understand the definition then, how the Satan could contain something called Kedusha. I'm always thinking
no. It's not that he contains it. He has access and control over it. It's not in him.
It's not his.
No, of course not. It's like somebody gives you the power of attorney over his bank account.
Right.
You know, it's not your money, but you can delegate where it goes. Same thing, you know.
Okay.
And that delegation is power, so to speak. Okay? Anyway, this is what we see so far, is that the main idea here is that the concept of zikuch is 1. We have 3 ways of doing zikuch is 2. And the Yemais HaMashiach is the beginning, first stage of that zikuch. That's the Or Mashiach, right? And besides that, you have the Zoyama, which is what we need to remove, and then we bring down the rest of the Kedusha, which is Mezakech the Bria. Got that? All that is critical to understand what's happening. Okay? That was the introduction.
I still don't understand what zikuch is. Zikuch is removing Zohama?
Yes. No. Zikuch is to change material substance into its ruchni. This table really is spiritual. We don't see it. This table has an incredible kedusha in it. Why? Because the Bershom is an entire bria. The whole bria is really the Bershom, you see. Except what the Bershom did, in a certain sense, is like he, imagine water. Water is a gas when it's steam, right? And then if you condense it, it becomes water. And if you condense it, it becomes ice. Look at it that way. So matter has 3 stages. Actually, it has 4. It's called plasma. But basically, matter has 3 stages. It's gas, where the molecules of the material is very loosely connected. Then it's crystallized, condensed, it becomes water, where all of a sudden it's much tighter connection, except they move. That's why water pours. And then all of a sudden you condense that, and it becomes a solid block of ice. But it's the same thing, it's still water, you see. It's the same idea. So zikuch, in a certain sense, is to turn this into a gas. Not really a great mushroom, because it's still water molecules. What zikuch does, so it turns this back into its spiritual molecules, so to speak. Not a great mushroom, but it does illustrate the point. Okay? So what we want to do, if you needed to use a word, we want to dematerialize the universe. That's the best word to use. It means to make it, to change its material from a certain substance, which is called geshem. We want to change it into what's called ruchni. This is basically a very important understanding of the Bria. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2. Yisurim. Remember the old thing called Yisurim? that we're all under in one way or another, right? There are if Yeshua has to happen, and the Rebbeinu wants to persecute Klal Yisrael, right, to use that word, he wants to miyaseh Klal Yisrael. There are only 8 nations that are assigned a job. It's what's called an exclusive club. You see, the exclusive club are the intimidators and the persecutors of Klal Yisrael. And there are only 8 nations that can do that. You see. Now, why would any nation want to do that? Because it's interesting, because wherever the Rebbeinu sends Klal Yisrael, he will only send them in a nation that is a superpower. Because it is degrading to send his children in Golos in Zimbabwe. That's why. Because, excuse me, you want to send me to this? I don't want to say more about that, and so, or you want to send me to, where's my, I don't know, Taiwan? Zimbabwe's a good example, or the Congo, or the Liberia. I mean, is this what you want from us? No. So the Russian won't do that to clients. So what he will do is send them into a nation that becomes a persecutory agent, and they will persecute the Jews. And there are only 8 of them. But the Russian will make them a superpower first. And you find that through all the persecution that the Russian did to Klal Yisrael. What are the 8 nations? It's very worthwhile to see. The first one was called Egypt, Mitzrayim. And Egypt was a superpower. It was the greatest nation on earth. Under Tutmosis. Yeah, it was the greatest nation on earth for thousands of years. So that was the first Golos. Okay? Then after that, what was the next Golos? Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. And after that was another superpower called Persia or Media, Achashverosh. Right? And these are all Yom Tovim, basically, Then after that, Persia was Yovan, Greece, Alexander. Although he was good to the Jews, but there was Greece, Hanukkah. And then after that, there was Rome. Right? And Rome was Machal the Beis Hamikdash and so on. What is interesting is that the Baruch Hashem said, listen, so how much do we have so far? We have 5, yes? Egypt, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome. Now, here's the problem. If the persecutory status is in a nation form, then for the next 2,000 years, the Baruch Hashem is going to have to allow Rome to be the king of the universe. Right? It means Rome can't disappear. Rome is gone. So what the Baruch Hashem did, because he knew that the Yidden have to go in Golos, which means they now have to disperse. All the previous ones where the Yidden didn't disperse, basically, they went as a unity, Klal Yisrael, into these nations. All the Jews were in Egypt, right? They were all in Bavel, right? Yovan, Persia, and then you had Greece, basically, and then, of course, Rome. They were all on the Persian Empire, the Roman Empire. So what he did is he changed the form of that, what's called klipa, or that persecutory agent, from a nation to a people, religion. He changed Rome into Christianity. So Christianity now became the dominant form of one of the persecutory agents. Now, the advantage of that is that whatever nation was Christian and the Jews went in, they would be considered Rome. Because Rome really is the last, basic, of the 4 nations. Or the 5, or whatever, and there are big differences between them all. In any case, so Christianity. And therefore, what's Christianity today? It is Western civilization. So fundamentally, Western civilization is Edom or Rome. You see, the proof of all that always is, of course, is that Christianity, right? Where is the seat of Christianity? It's in the Vatican, Rome. So why is Christianity in Rome? They should have really made their place in Israel or Judea, because that's where their guy, he lived, in Judea. What's he doing in Rome? And the answer is because they took over the shlichus of Rome. They took over the persecutory status of Rome, Christianity, and therefore their main guy, their whole center is in Rome, the Pope. I always get a kick out of the fact that what is the Pope? What's the name of the place that the Pope resides? Vatican. If you spell out the word Vatican and you re-jumble the letters, it spells out Tikkun. Vatican. If you jumble the letters, it spells out Tikkun. I always got a kick out of that, because the essential purpose of Rome is Tikkun for the Yidden, I always say, which is interesting, when Yitzchak gave the bracha to Yaakov and then Esau came in, terribly distraught, and Yitzchak gave the bracha to Esau. What was the bracha? That Yaakov will rule over you, but if he does bad stuff, you will rule over him, right? And so the question is, how can you do that? How can you allow Esau to dominate Yaakov and destroy him? You know what I'm saying? What kind of business is that? And not only that, what kind of bracha is that? You want to give, destroying Jews isn't the bracha. So why would Yitzchak give a bracha to Esau to be in that position, right? And how does it answer, all the incredible materialism that Esau would want? And the answer is because Yitzchak said, listen, I can't give you a bracha because you're out of zikuch, you're out of tikkun, it's over with. But if I make you the chief persecutory agent, you will become a superpower. You see. So there you are. So Yaakov will have his tikkun, which is Vatican, right? And you will become a superpower, which is all the goodies. You see. That's why he did it. All he did was make Esau the chief persecutory agent. Because he knew that Yaakov was going to sin and so on. So they're going to have some nation. You might as well be the candidate. You see, so and that answers the question, what's going on here? But anyway, so that's what he did. So he made this incredible, so the Russian changed the nature of Rome, which is Esau, Edom, Rome, to Christianity, which is Western civilization. And that's exactly what has been happening now. So therefore, what do we have? We have 5 persecutory agents. Who's number 6, 7, and 8?
The whole point of that's what got him in the Bria.
What was that?
That's the whole point why this got him in the Bria.
Well, they've assigned themselves that task. That's not why they're going in the Bria. No. Why are they going in the Bria? Sounds like a real racist question.
No, technically.
It's like why do Jews have? Why do? Wait a minute. Anyway. Anyway. No, I don't get into that, but no, Goyim have a tafkid, and that is to assist the Jews to do the mitzvahs. Ha ha. That's all I can say about that. Not only don't they do that, but they destroy the Jews left and right. I mean, so whatever, and so Now, who are the last 3? The last 3 is what we are now dealing with here, in the end of time, and we are now in the end of time, and you have to see what's going on, and yochap atzita, as they say in Yiddish, what is happening. That's how close we are. Now, who are the last 3? The last 3 are 1. Is Ishmael, Arabs. I should say Islam is 1. Okay. Then you have a persecutory agent, although it's not another nation, it is the Erev Rav, which has always been with us. Erev Rav, as I will explain, are Jews that want to destroy Judaism, not destroy Jews. They're after the prize, that is to destroy Yiddishkeit. Different. Everybody else wants to destroy Jews. The Erev Rav wants to destroy Judaism, and the last of all the nations is Amalek, that will make their presence available, and they will be the last nation to persecute the Jews, and they will be destroyed. Anyway, so those are the last 3. And of course, Rome's still with us. Remember, Rome hasn't disappeared. So in the end of time, you really have those 4. You have Western civilization. You have Yishmael, which is Islam, and you have the Erev Rav. Okay, we do not have a Molech yet, because he's going to show up later on. Although he did show up before, but he makes his grand finale later on.
Where does communism fall in?
Who?
Where does communism fall in?
You're from Russia.
I mean, in the beginning it was Erev Rav, but then in the beginning it was Erev Rav, but then it changed. I mean, for the next 80 years it was something else.
Actually, there's more of a curious relationship between Israel and Putin having similar interests than Obama and Israel now. It's totally insane. It's not so clear cut.
Yeah.
But where does it belong? To
Let me explain, okay? If you look in the Torah, in Esau had three characteristics. Interesting guy. Esau was no fool, and he was an incredible person. I mean, unfortunately, he lost and we lost. He lost because he became what he was. And we lost out because we lost the koyach of Esau, which is astounding. But Esau has three characteristics. One, it's a tremendous gaiva, arrogant. When he says, Vayives Esau as a bechira, and Esau despised the birthright. You know, you talk about geos. What do I need it for? You know, that's like spitting in God's face, literally. That is unbridled arrogance. That's what it is. The classic megalomaniac. Although he really wasn't a megalomaniac, I mean, he was probably just egomaniac, which is different than a megalomaniac. But anyway, I mean, they're all crazy, so don't get me wrong. Not like we're talking about normal people here, you know. But, so that's number one, is gaiva. The second interesting aspect of Esau is that he was a fraud. He fooled Yitzchak. Do I have to give my son salt? Come on, salt, you know. Because he, no matter what Esau was, he didn't want to publicly display who he really was. It's a fraud. It's called an imposter. He made believe he was a tzaddik, but he's a fraud. Okay? The third interesting character, Esau, is an incredible Baal Taiva. Taiva, pleasure. And he was really sold on pleasure, you know, whatever. There's midrashim about what he did, whatever. So what do we have? We have gaiva, mirma, which is fraud. We have taiva, which is pleasure. Yes? So we have three characteristics of Esau. Now, therefore, if Esau, Edom, Rome, Christianity, Western civilization. Therefore, Western civilization is now divided into three parts, each one resembling one characteristic of Esau. Interesting. Okay, here goes the guessing game. Who took the gaiva? Which part of Western civilization is the gaiva of Esau?
Russia.
Russia?
no,
America.
never.
No.
Tick tock, tick tock.
America.
Who?
America?
Taiwan.
Germany.
No, a little bit.
Good.
No, in the beginning, not now. I mean,
Here, race.
The Aryan race.
it was a while ago. I mean, once it was. It's fine.
Women manifest.
Can't be Yishmael. It has to be Mesa.
Okay, I will tell you. The ones who took over the geos of Esau, which is the greatest of all the aspects of Esau, which are terrible. You know, it's what's called the ha'oz gedola ad mioid. You know what I'm saying? It's an open defiance. In many ways, it's the same thing as the Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Babel that we're building. It's a defiance of God. It's not merely a, well, you do what you want and I will do what I want. No, I will openly try to destroy God. That is communism. Think about, what is communism? They deny the existence of God. One, they hold they are. I mean, Lenin, Trotsky, Gorbachev, Khrushchev, these guys are insane with power. They're megalomaniacs. They will destroy religion. they deny it's a godless country. Now, why? Because Russia used to be Christian, still is. It's the Russian Orthodox Church, right? You have the Greek Orthodox Church, the Russian Orthodox Church, which means they're church. That's Christianity. But then from 1917 and on, they turned godless. Communism is that. The problem is that the gaiva of Esau is so terrible that the Moshe will not allow it to last for many, many years. He only brings it out in the end. So communism, in its pure form, is an unbridled godliness and defiance of the Rebbeinu Shalom. So communism is the gaiva of Esau. That's number one. Who is the fraud of Esau? The mirmor, the imposter, the guy who hides behind mice of salt. Who is that? Tick tock, tick tock. No.
America.
No. Who? No. I mean, we know what America is. Come on, it's Taiva. We know that. You know, it's America. Hey, you want to talk philosophy? Let's go to a restaurant and talk about philosophy. You and I have to have a grilled steak. I mean, come on, you know, or 24-hour cocoa, whatever it is, right?
It's 48 hours.
What?
It's 48 hours.
40 hours. You know, America's Taiva is obviously. Who's the fraud? Who's the fraud of Esau?
Bill Clinton.
Yes.
Europe.
No? Who?
Europe.
Europe. Europe.
How's it different from America?
Oh.
Yeah.
What is the history of Europe?
It's a hidden time.
No, they're all about Taivas. I mean, Taivas always, the question is, what's the emphasis? What is Europe? Europe is fundamentally Christian, right? That's Rome, all these places are Christian, right? What does the New Testament say? Turn the other cheek, right? What do you mean turn the other cheek? Or thou shalt love your neighbor, right? Which of course from the Torah and so on, they all make believe that they're tzaddikim. But when they tell you to turn the other cheek, it's your cheek they turn, not theirs. This is the classic difference, right? Of course they they turn your other cheek and take a look at what Europe has done, all in the name of what? Their savior, their guy, right? Take a look, right? The Crusades. Why are they Crusades? To remove what? Jerusalem from the Muslims. They went to war against, Saladin, right? And he finally conquered them, right? It was a religious war. Of course, on the way they killed millions of Jews. The amount of Jews they killed is incredible. And I'll tell you something interesting. The Black Plague, 1348, wiped out probably 2/3 of Europe. Why? Because of the Crusades. Yeah, he got them back. You want to do this to my Yidden? I will kill you all. You can't believe what the Black Plague did. The Black Plague, it was a terrible way to die, and so on and so forth, was one of the greatest economic booms ever known to Europe. Because it wiped out 2/3, so you had plenty of jobs available for you. There's nobody around, But my feeling is that it was the einish to Europe for the for the Crusades that they did to the Yidden. So they just wiped out 2/3 of Europe, which is interesting. Anyway, that's Aga. But anyway, it's Europe. Think about it. The pogroms is all because of Christianity. The Crusades, right? It's all that. The Inquisitions, right? Okay, because they say you become Christian or you're out, the cross or whatever, right? Right? And then you have the expulsions. It's all because of Christianity, because you need to convert. But it's all under the guise of religion. What kind of business is this? That's the fraud. Europe fundamentally was a continent given over toward Christianity for 2,000 years or whatever. Yet they are guilty of such unbelievable butchery to the Jewish people that it is absolutely beyond belief. Esau, Ritzicha, right? What was Esau famous for? Ritzicha. He's a murderer. wouldn't hesitate to kill you. It's all right. That's Europe. All under the guise of tzidkus. That's the second aspect of Esau. And the third aspect of Esau, of course, is taiva. I always get a kick out of this, which is interesting, you know. What was the mitzvah that Esau did more than anybody else? Kibbut Avim. Who has Mother's Day and Father's Day? You ever notice? America. Where did they come up with such an idea? Because Kibbut Avim. And what's always interesting is that if you know any history, you know, what is one of the worst aspects of Esau, the real Ritzlicha, and these guys are from whatever, is the mafia. You know, the Sicilians, right? The Sicilians, right? What are the mafia guys always into? Honoring your father and mother. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, it's unbelievable. You know, they'll kill you without even a thought, ruthless. Yet they will honor their father and mother, and then they go to church. I mean, how much Asif can you do? That's the mafia. And so, right? So there you are. So Western civilization is divided into three parts. Like I said, you know, there's Russia, communism specifically, because Russia is really Christian, but under communism and so on, is the Gaiva, Europe is the Mirma, the fraud, and America is the Taiva. There you are. Very important idea. That's why their Western civilization is Esau, or Edom.
You leave out the Orientals completely?
Yeah, I'm leaving them out. Yeah.
Now here's the thing, I think someone alluded to this in the beginning of class about a Holocaust. There seems to be a rise of Muslims going after Christians now. We're not the only target. It seems very noticeable.
Oh yeah, I'll talk about that. Oh, this is just, I'm just laying the groundwork.
Introduction.
This is called the intro.
Preamble.
Preamble, you know, you need to know all of this to know what's happening.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, in any case, this is what's happening, or and so on. So you have, and I told you, so you have Egypt, you have the 4 nations, then you have the last 3, which of course is Ishmael, and then you have Erev Rav, then you have Amalek. Fine. Your question is, how much time do I have?
20 minutes.
How much time do you have?
20 minutes.
Why 20 minutes?
Change the clock tonight.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
We lose an hour. It's no good.
What's wrong with
It's
that?
9:20. You just talked, it's 9:20.
Gain an hour.
You gain an hour.
Don't gain an hour. You lose an hour.
Now it's
When you
9:20.
gain it, we turn it
It's
back.
9:20, you gain an hour.
You're going to make it 8:20.
Wait a minute. Oh, spring
Forward.
forward.
Back.
All back.
Oh. I was going to turn my clock ahead. Oh, you just saved me 2 hours of sleep. Well, that's right. It's full back, which means gain out. Oh, so really it's 9:24.
Of course, we have another hour and a
Oh,
half.
wow. This is incredible.
So we have plenty of time.
What?
We have plenty of time now.
Wow. Let's put it that way. What are you up to? Oh. Now, Egypt, without going into that, and then you have the 4 nations. Put them aside. Well, Rome, I just explained some of Rome. Christianity, the different parts of Rome, and so on, and they have, of course, done their terrible job. Have they done their job? Has Christianity succeeded in doing their job? That is the question. And the answer is far beyond what we can imagine. I think I once said this here, but it's worth in many ways. Historians estimate that at the turn of the millennium, or 2,000 years ago, there were approximately, let's say, 10 million Jews. A lot of people. I think the whole world only had 225 million people 2,000 years ago. So they estimate there was approximately 10 million Jews. A lot of people, which is astounding. So there were 10 million Jews 2,000 years ago. How many Chinese were there 2,000 years ago? So historians estimate that there were approximately 25 million Chinese 2,000 years ago. That's a long time ago. 25 million Chinese. How many Chinese are there today? I think it's about 1.2 or 1.3 billion Chinese. Why? Well, you feel like this. If you have 2,000 years in normal reproduction, right? You can go from 2,000 years, you can go from 25 million to over a billion, right? So how much is that a multiplication of? It's over 40 times the original population. It's really almost 50, right? So 25 million, whatever, 50 times, whatever, is 1.2 billion, right? Great. How many Jews were there 2,000 years ago? 10 million. Yes? How many Jews are there today? 13 million. Just say that again. There were 10 million Jews 2,000 years ago. Today, how many are there? 13 million. What in the world happened? How is it possible that in 2,000 years, all we've put out is another 3 million people? In fact, if you look at the same percentage as the Chinese and multiply 10 million by 40 or 50, how many Jews should there be? 500 million Jews. By just the same population dynamics. Now, could you imagine if there are 500 million Jews? You have any idea how many Rabbonim there would be? You have any idea how much Sinas Chinam there would be? No, I'm joking.
How many people would learn in BMG?
It's interesting.
Well, there you are. Multiply 7,000 times 50. It's 70. What?
He's thinking about the real estate prices.
That's true, you know.
And we had 16 million before the show. That was the highest.
16.
16.6.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah.
Oh, what, are you looking it up?
Yeah.
Well, what'd you look it up from?
I'll tell you after.
It's interesting you contrast those two people because China holds back. They restrict one child.
Oh, yeah, because it's getting out of hand.
And then we had the Holocaust, which I heard someone say rhetorically and somewhat literally. The Yamach Shimon didn't kill 6 million, he killed 6 billion because all the children and the grandchildren and the extension...
But it's not that. It's not only that. How can you only produce 3 million people, right, more than it was 2,000 years ago? Who are the major persecutory agents of the Jews for 2,000 years? Christianity. Right? That's really what they were. The Arabs didn't kill as many Jews as the Christians. When you add up all the Inquisitions and the pogroms and the Crusades and the expulsions and the individual death, that means there should be 500 million Jews. That means basically 490 million Jews don't exist today because of Christianity. That's beyond belief when you add that up. It's astounding. You know. So that's Christianity. What they have done to Jews is beyond belief what they have done to the Jewish people. That's Edom, and that's Esau, and so on. That is why, you think about that. You have the Pope and all these guys, they have no idea of what the din will be when the din finally happens against Edom or against all these people. They cannot even conceive that there's an incredible haftarah. It's in the end of Nitzavim. It's where the version where Yeshaya Navi. Take a look. It's in fact that was the haftarah in the World Trade Center of that week. Nitzavim, because it's at the end. Where the version says, where Yeshaya Navi says, I see God coming, and he's all dressed in red. Now, what does that mean? Blood. And he steps on Edom like a man steps on grapes. The old days he used to step on the grapes to get the stuff out. The Baruch Hashem steps on Edom like a winemaker steps on his grapes. He crushes them. So Yeshaya Novi looks and says, what's going on here? You know, I mean, he's frightened. I mean, the Baruch Hashem is now in a position where has assumed the garb of war, and it's over with, you know, like Hazinu says, you know, V'ani achaya v'ani memes, you know, I kill and I make live, you know, V'ein miyadi matzel, and from my hand there's no savior. It's over with. There's nobody can oppose me and so on. So the Baruch Hashem says, I come to wipe out Edom for what they've done over the thousands of years and so on. Anyway, so the Baruch Hashem, so in any case, so that's in what they've destroyed in terms of Edom. So you think about the Pope, you know, the Pope is an incredible, you know, he's doing Jews a favor. Does he have any idea what he and his religion will be held to in the end of time? He cannot even conceive this. Yet there are 2 billion Christians in the world. Do they have any idea when justice finally comes down what's going to happen to these guys? They have no concept. So what the Pope is doing a big favor, whatever. The truth is the Pope should grovel at the feet of a Jew and beg them for forgiveness for what their religion has done to hundreds of millions of people. And it's not only Jews. They have butchered. Who knows how many people? You know, Goyim, how many people they have butchered. It is one of the worst religions on earth. It is a religion of war, all as fraudulent. Nirma, fraud. Just like Ishmael. And so, anyway, because that's Esau, is Ritzicha. You know, I once said the Pope, what's his name, the previous guy, what's the name of the guy?
Want to resign?
No, not the one who resigned.
Joseph Ratzinger?
Who?
Ratzinger?
No, not Richard Ratzinger, the one before. Who's the one who went to the Kaisel in 2000?
Jean-Paul II.
Who?
Jean-Paul II.
John Paul II. So I once said, why did he go to the Kaisel? What?
Polish.
He's Polish, yeah, he was a Polish guy, yeah. What's his name, but his name, he changed his name to John Paul.
John.
Oh, I forgot the name. Anyway, why did he go to Kaisel? Because they had a murder quandary. Because if you look at the New Testament, it says that he is going to come back. It says that clearly. And not only that, it says, verily in your lifetime, the kingdom of heaven will come back. And all the apostles said that, hey, that he's going to be declared Messiah, whoever the guy is, right? In the lifetime of all the apostles and so on, you know? Obviously, he never came back, you know? He never came back. And he's been gone for 2,000 years. You see? Now, we have to ask ourselves, how come he never came back? And the answer is because he's dead. Dead people usually don't come back. However, they don't get it. So therefore, the Pope went to the Kaisel. And I believe the reason why he went to the Kaisel was for this reason, right? To hedge his bets. Because they're worried. Why didn't he come back? Where is this guy for 2,000 years? So he's worried, right? So he said, you feel like this, you know? It could be because they overdid it with the Jews. And because the Jews are the children of God. It says in the Torah. I mean, you can't get away from this, you know? Ask yourself, before the advent of Christianity, what was the only real religion on earth, in that sense? It was Judaism. Every person who was a Christian believed in Judaism. There was nothing else, right? So therefore they know, they suspect maybe they overdid it. They just killed too many Jews. And therefore God is angry, he's not coming back. You see. So he figured he's going to go to the Kaisel and hedge his bets. That's what he's going to do. So he's going to say to God, listen, you know, maybe we overdid it, we're too overzealous. You know, and so on and so forth. So forgive us and bring the guy back. That's why he went. Why does a pope go to the Kaisel? It's ridiculous. Because I believe, and he went right before the millennium. Because they were all waiting for him to come back by the millennium, you know, and so on, you know. But, and that's precisely because they overdid it. Overdid is not the word for it, you know. How many Jews they killed. Any case, okay. So we have 3 or 4 nations left, really in the end. Like I said, that's basically Ishmael, the heir of Rav, Amalek is at the end, and you still have Rome, and so on. Okay. And as time goes on, as we will see, the Satan becomes deprived. He gets weaker. That's why in the beginning, what's the problem? In the beginning, each nation could persecute the Jews. And now it takes all 3. It takes America, right, and Europe and so on. It takes the Arabs, Ishmael, and it takes the Arab. All three have to get together, and that's what really is happening, certainly by the time of Clinton and so on, in order to destroy Judaism in that sense. But in any case, it's interesting to watch, you know, how did the Moshe, and they don't realize that, how did the Moshe weaken Christianity? Because that's what happens. In the end of time, Edom, or Christianity, weakens. Why? Because what are the Jews doing? As time goes on, and the Jews do mitzvahs or tshuva nisurim, what happens? The Satan has to give up his kedusha, and he gets weak, you see. So the Moshe did two things that weakened Christianity. The first was Protestantism, which is Luther. He got fuming at the Catholic Church. So in the 1500s, he rebelled against the church, and he instituted Protestantism. Protestantism is really protest. It's against Christianity, which is Roman Catholicism. He went against them because he said, what you guys are doing is ridiculous. You know, I don't know if you remember what they were doing. There was the only one in their religion, a priest, Roman Catholic, can absolve of sin. That's called confession. You know what I'm saying? The problem with confession is that a priest can absolve you. You don't need to do tshuva to God. He can do it. Now, obviously, if a human can do it, you can bribe him. This is the old story, right? You give him some cash, write a check to his favorite charity, Chofetz Chaim, and he will absolve you of your chet.
That's the mafia connection you were talking about.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know. But it became so ridiculous after a while, and that's why the Catholic Church in those days, in the 15th, 14th century, was the wealthiest of all, because everybody was writing down checks. You know, and so on. But the incredible, so if you did a chet, you wrote out a check, you confessed, said a couple of Hail Marys, whatever that is, and so on, and you were forgiven, you know. But after a while, it became really crazy, where a guy would say, hey, listen, well, let's work out a deal. We have a sale going on. The sale is 2 for the price of 1. Okay. If you give me a certain amount of money, not only will you have a kapora for what you did, but you will have a kapora for what you will do. So have a great time. This was the problem. And Luther went crazy. He said, what kind of ridiculous thing is that? And the kapora would be retroactive. It means your kapora is now, but when you do the chet, it's retroactive to now. And you mechupa. I mean, so Luther went crazy. He said, what is this? You know, it's bad enough you give a kapora without any tshuva really, but you give a kapora on what you will do? I mean, that's unheard of. You see, that's one of the reasons why he broke away from the Catholic Church. So that's why you have Roman Catholicism, which is 1 billion people, and that is why you have Protestantism, and there are many denominations of that, Episcopalians and the Presbyterians and all that kind
And
of
there's
stuff.
Coptic, which is a whole, they think
Oh,
they're
Coptic,
original.
yeah, Coptic is a whole different thing. That's Egyptians, Copts. But anyway, and that is why, so Luther was the first break. The Bershom created a schism in Catholicism that broke the power of the church. Because there now was a whole segment, mostly the Church of England, broke away from the Pope, right? And they became the Archbishop of Canterbury. And these guys broke away from the whole Europe and so on. And that was a major schism in the church, and that weakened the power of Edom. That was one. I'm just showing what's going on in the end. The second great thing that weakened the power of the church, okay, was democracy. Think about it. What is democracy? Democracy is a political system that takes away the power of a central government, king, dictator, right? And it puts the power of people, put the power of a government in the hands of people. So democracy is a tool that weakens the Pope, who's fundamentally a dictator. It weakens dictators, you see? And therefore democracy is a tool used by the Moshe to weaken Edom. It's interesting. That's a second thing that weakened many, many people, the whole church and so on. So what we now witness is Edom being further and further weakened. And today, you don't realize, but Christianity is way down. 90% of Europe has nothing to do with Christianity. In fact, they say that the only one who visits churches are the tourists. Because the stained glass. I mean, some of these places are just incredible, you know. And they're the only ones who go to church. The tourists, you know. The Europeans don't go to church anymore. Most of them are out of it. So in many ways, the church is dying. In fact, I just heard that in Manhattan, they're closing down a whole bunch of dioceses, and they're combining because it's changing. People don't go to church anymore.
Well, very recently, the Pope started agreeing to evolution and all these things.
And Toiva, all within the last week. They're saying Toiva, the evolution. Who? The Pope
he said things about, he said that God's not a magician waving a wand.
God is not a magician waving a wand?
He used very ambiguous statements, but he said things like God is not just some magician waving a wand.
Yeah.
He said things are very ambiguous, but it sounded to me at least like he has to work. But he created originally a system, but he said things that sounded like he has to work within the rules of evolution or something like that.
You mean within the world of current thinking and science and so on?
Evolution said like evolution.
He used the word evolution?
The word evolution was used. And also they softened their stance on Toiva marriage, which a lot of... First of all, my experience in that... Catholics probably have the least regard for the religion out of all people with religion.
Yeah,
they're Catholics, I'm a good Catholic, but they think the Pope's full of baloney and this, that, the other thing. They're open about it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying... But yeah, he softened his position on that. So people are saying because they got to get people to go to the church, it's about money, and that the income level of many Toiva couples...
What's Toiva? What is Toiva?
Abominant man and man, woman and woman. I don't know how to say it.
You mean same-sex marriages?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They have... I apologize, but they're known to have among probably the highest per capita income among those types of families in the country. They're all very usually successful, you know. So they think they were discussing these things, why they're changing their policy. I don't know, God needs more money.
The whole religion's being undermined.
It's true. It's continued. As of last week, that came out.
What we're witnessing
phenomenal.
is full of Edom. Yeah. And then the whole homosexual scandal killed them. That destroyed them.
Homosexuality is a certain type of celibacy.
The what?
It's a certain type of celibacy, in a way.
Child free, they call it, not child.
Yeah, they're just the pedophiles. Half these guys were pedophiles.
Right.
You know, into kids. Anyway, that's you know. You know what they say, the joke, you know. What's between a monastery and a nunnery, right? It's a children's graveyard.
But interestingly, the most charismatic Catholic person, you must have heard this, it's probably old news, in the world, Cardinal O'Connor, was found to be Jewish.
Was?
Yep, look it up. Yeah.
Well, his grandmother was Jewish?
Something maternalistically, and he acknowledged it, and he was very good.
You know, that's always interesting. To really be a good Christian, you have to be Jewish. You know, even Yeshu, even their guy was Jewish. Never, they just can't get away from the Yiddish guy.
Yeah.
You know, it's always a Jew coming back to face them. Anyway, but all of this is because the gullus of Jews is ending slowly, and therefore all these persecutory agents are losing. They are diminishing. The Satan is diminishing in power. That's really what's happening.
Why is Islam going up?
What?
Why Islam is going up?
Hold on.
Whole another hour.
Yeah. Erev Rav. Then I'll talk about Yishmael. Erev Rav. What is an Erev Rav, really? When did the Erev Rav start? That's the question. What?
Herzl?
Who?
Herzl?
Who?
Herzl?
No. No, when did it start?
Mitzrayim.
Egypt. No. It started much earlier than that. And that tells you what an Erev Rav is. Okay? It started by Yaakov and Esau. Yaakov was about to meet Esau. And he says, Hatzileni no miyad Esau, miyad ochi miyad Esau. Hatzileni no, save me. Save me from my brother, who is Esau. The question is, why would he say that? And the answer to that is because Esau comes to, what he was saying is that in whatever form Esau comes to me, save me. if he comes as my brother, which is what? Where you're great and so on, save me. When if he comes as my enemy, Esau, save me. What does that mean? What is an Erev Rav? An Erev Rav is a Jew that doesn't want to destroy Jews. He wants to destroy Judaism. He wants to take away the uniqueness of Klal Yisrael as what? As the Torah, that is the Torah that binds us to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And it's not the Torah that makes the Jews unique. It is who? It is, gefilte fish. Yeah, it's culture. That's what we're unique as a Jew because of the state of Israel, because of our culture. Of course the Torah is great. Of course the Torah is great literature, but so is Shakespeare. You see, what they want to do is take away the Torah and the mitzvahs as the defining point of Jews, and replace it with everything else that constitutes a nation devoid of Torah. That's an Esau. What is the power of an Erev Rav? Why are they so successful? And the answer is because they are a tumor, a cancer. What is a cancer? How does a cancer have its power over a person? And the answer is because a cancer is the cells of the body itself that have grown and do not stop growing. That's what a tumor is. A tumor has credibility with the body. The body doesn't recognize the tumor as an other, as some foreign pathogen. It thinks the tumor is self, and therefore won't destroy. The truth is that if science ever discovered how to wake up the immune system to recognize a tumor as a pathogen, nobody would ever get cancer. Because the immune system is so powerful, it can wipe out any cancer, and people have that. There are people called, remission, where a guy has cancer, he's supposed to be dead the next month, and he wakes up one morning, it's all gone. What happened? The immune system somehow woke up and said, hey, these guys are not brothers, these guys are enemies. And the immune system wiped out. The problem is they don't know how to do that, the immune system. This is the problem. The Erev Rav is a cancer, it's a tumor. Because their ability to destroy Klal Yisrael is the fact of their credibility, because they say, we're your brothers. We're your brothers, because we're Jewish, we're here to help you. You're here to destroy my religion, but no, chas v'shalom, they're Jews, they mean the best for us. That's their credibility, you see. So therefore, the Erev Rav started by Yaakov Avinu already. There was the recognition that there's an Erev Rav. And of course by Mitzrayim, they didn't say, hey, where's God? There's no God. No. They said, of course there's a God, but he's an Egel. They went along with that and so on. In other words, they diminish the truth about the Rebbeinu Shalom and his Torah. That's what an Erev Rav is. And that's the second major force that deals with Klal Yisrael. And who is the Erev Rav today? Well, in America, it's the Reformed Conservative movement and the Reconstructionists. And it's the Haskalah in Israel, because most of the people in Israel are Maskilim, and so on. And all of them are actively involved in one thing, to remove the religion of Torah. That you don't need Torah. You're an Israeli. I'm an Israeli. What I need to do the Torah for? Israel. Right? Israel is the identity of a Jew. That's what an Erev Rav is. And they are the greatest enemy of Klal Yisrael. Why? Because they have credibility. They have credibility. That is why. You see? That's why it's one thing to recognize a Christian that he's your enemy. But the Erev Rav, and so on. It's just a mind-boggling how many people are fooled by these people. Mapai, Labor, even Likud. They were all Erev Rav. Forget about Lapid. These guys are the Rosh of the Erev Rav and so on, and how many people believe in this, whatever, and so on. Okay, that's the Erev Rav. Okay, we are now up to the 21st century. Now, there is one phenomenon that is occurring today that is the major reason for what's happening now. It's the major reason. You see. And there's good news and there's bad news. It's like the guy called up, a doctor called up a patient of his And he said, you know, we just took your test examples, so and I have good news and bad news for you. So what do you want to hear first? So the guy said, well, tell me the good news. The good news...
Sounds like the bad news.
It's the...
Your thing went off.
No, it's the... timer.
So maybe somebody want to go in there and tell somebody to put on the time clock? Because your camera just went off, right?
No, it's on.
No, I can't.
It's on battery.
No, it's on, it's good.
Oh,
You have night vision?
No, but you can't
Yeah,
see
you
it.
could see. You could see.
You wait for him to come back.
Yeah, you could see.
It adjusts.
So wait for him to come back.
So the good news and the bad news. The joke you can say now.
No, it's good, it's good.
Wait for him.
It is good?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, can't see me.
You could, yeah, it's good.
Night
You
vision.
could actually see me?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. There's good news and there's bad news. So he asked, what? But I know he's going to miss the joke.
Yeah, it's much better now.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, what's happening?
I don't know, maybe in that closet.
You want to go upstairs and knock on the door and tell him to put the light back?
No, that's this one. Yeah.
Over here.
Good walk.
Need a flashlight.
Maybe it's just if you want. Ah.
No, it's emergency.
Yeah. Okay.
No, it's long.
You want to give him the... No, it's over there. It's definitely over there.
Oh.
Give him the...
Flashlight.
Just press it, just press it. Don't press it.
That's a lot. Never have, sir.
It's going to go... Yeah. Usually it comes down because he doesn't know. He probably doesn't know.
Yeah, you want to go upstairs?
Yeah, I'm gonna go upstairs now.
The door, he's over here. Go up the stairs and knock on the door. Good news and the bad news. What do you want to hear first? I want to hear the good news first. The good news is that you only have 24 hours more to live. So the guy says, that's the good news? What's the bad news? So the doctor tells him, the bad news is we try to reach you 2 days ago, a day ago. That's the bad news.
The business was I didn't get a bill yet. Yeah.
Trying to reach you 24 hours ago. Anyway,
Prepaid, I don't know.
you know.
Guess they couldn't pay us, so they gave him another 6 months.
So what's the good news and the bad news?
Okay. It's another joke. Some guy had to have his leg amputated. So after the surgery, the doctor walks in and says, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is that they cut off the wrong leg. Sometimes they have to cut off the other one too. What's the good news? Good news is that the guy in the next bed would like to buy your shoes. Anyway. Okay. Now that we've lightened up a little, here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is after 2,000 years, 4,000 years since Avram Avinu, 6,000, actually it's since 4,000 years, the Jews have bankrupted the Satan. The Satan is dying, which is the whole point. Which means that most of the Tzitze Kedusha, the sparks of holiness, is out of the hands of the Satan.
It doesn't look like it.
Hold on, you can get the good.
You can hear the bad news.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the good news. The good news, he's dying. we have an angel of this enormous power that is dying. Because, and it makes sense. After 4,000 years, the Jews have taken out, whether it be mitzvahs, tshuva, yisurim, suffering, they have taken out all the kedusha. And therefore his zoyamah is shaking. That's the good news. The bad news is the Satan who's dying goes wild. He's dying. And therefore he is now going to do things which are beyond belief. It's like a star that comes, about to die, becomes a nova, we can outshine galaxies, right? So he is desperate. Got it? Okay, that's the bad news. And we are in the throes of his desperation.
Where does he get these koiches from?
Our chatonim, the Nitzitzi Kedusha. Those are all that reflects our sins.
If we stop doing katan, he would lose his koiches.
Yeah, of course, he's finished.
Well, we finished the cheshbon, but he's still drawing from Avatar.
Well, he still has something left. 98% of his koich is gone. Where is it? In the hands of the Jews.
Stronger.
What?
How does it get stronger?
Who?
But how does it get stronger?
It's not stronger, it's just concentrated.
No, it's just concentrated. There's like a flame. You ever see a flame before it's about to go out? All of a sudden, sparks like that. What it does, it draws in whatever, instead of meeting out the energy, in a measured way, it just draws it all in at one shot and sparks up, and then it's gone. That's how. It's the same energy, but instead of being released slowly, it's all done at one shot. That's the bad news. Now, once you understand the whole build-up of all this, is the Sultan, the Zoyamah, everything, Zikuch, you name it, the persecutory agents. Once you understand this, now you can begin to look with astonishment at what's happening. Okay? Here's what's happening. I once said this before. A general. Imagine there's a general that is fighting a war, his country against another country. And after a year or two or whatever, the general has only 1 week firepower left. He only has 1 week's firepower left. That's it. And after the week, it's over with. He lost the war. He's desperate. He only has 1 more week left. So here's what he does. There's only 3 strategies that he can do. If none of them work, he's finished. Strategy number 1 is called the big bluff. What he will do is fire. Instead of 1 day, he's going to fire 6 days of firepower in 1 shot. And he's hoping to bluff the enemy, where they'll say, wow, we can't believe that this guy still has his power left. We need to sue for peace. Okay? So he does that. He's got 7 days left. He fires 6 days in 1 shot. Imagine how devastating that is, right? But it's really only 6 days left, right? And he tries that, but the other nation, they're still fighting him. Bad news. Because all he's got left is 1 day. The gamble didn't pay off. The big bluff. He's got 1 more strategy. What's that? That he will send some of his guys to dress up as the enemy. And to go into the enemy territory to try to break the resolve of the other people to stop fighting him. And they're the ones who say, we want peace, we don't want war anymore. This is what always goes on in America. By Vietnam, peaceniks, all these guys, right? And by people are sick and tired of war. So he's saying, hey, come on, we don't need this. We fought war so long, we want peace. So he's hoping to break the resolve of the enemy nation to stop fighting. But it's his guys that are trying to break the resolve. He tries that, didn't work. He's got only 1 more option left. And if that doesn't work, as they say, it's curtains. What is that option? He goes to an ally. Or today it's a cell phone. Right? He calls the ally and says, hey, we're finished here. We need new supplies, new troops, and new supplies. And you got less than 24 hours to get here, right? And if that doesn't work, he's gone. That's the strategies of a general making war. Satan has the exact same strategies. When you understand that, you will understand the historical events that correspond to these strategies. And now we begin to understand the characters, now that you understand the plot. You see, you now have a handle on the plot, and now we take a look at the characters. Okay. What does the Satan do? He's dying. So he does the first thing is called the big bluff. Which historical event corresponds to the big bluff? Who? The Holocaust. You have to understand what that means. The Holocaust has many reasons. It has many ideas. And I'm about to tell you only one of them, although it is a very important part. What was the Satan's strategy? What he did was unusual. He marshaled the entire world against the Jews. It wasn't just Germany. It was Ukraine and Poland. All of them killed the Jews. But it wasn't only them. It was also the collaborators. Britain, right? The white paper stopped immigration to Israel so they couldn't run away. Then it was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, where he wouldn't allow the Jews to come in. And then it was England also that wouldn't bomb. They wouldn't bomb all the tracks to Auschwitz and so on. You know, everybody did something against the Jews, each in their own way. Some people were the exact perpetrators, other people were the collaborators, right? Then the other people were the co-conspirators. Each one was guilty at some level. Why did he do that? Because that's the big bluff. He sent all his troops, which are the Umas Ha'olam, the nations of the world, to war against the Jews, each one in their own level of guilt or culpability. What did he want from that? And of course they wound up killing 6 million Jews. But the thing is that the Satan doesn't get anything from the death of a Jew, really. What he did want is this, that the Jews would say, hey, where is God? Right? That the covenant, the agreement that we have to Hashem is gone. And therefore, let us now forget about mitzvahs and do whatever we want. And therefore, what is the Satan yonik from? Averis. That's what he was hoping. He was hoping to destroy the emunah of Klal Yisrael, where they would give up. And therefore they would be chote, and he would be able to yonik or resupply the Nitzotze Kedusha. Got it? That was his real strategy. Did it work? No. To a certain extent it did, not really. You know, what he was hoping is to destroy the emunah of Klal Yisrael. Didn't work. So he's got to do a second strategy. What's the second strategy? The second strategy is what?
Arab.
Well, is dissidence. To send his guys into the enemy camp and to break the resolve of the enemy. Right? Who are the soldiers of this general or the soldiers of the Sultan that he sends into the camp of Klal Yisrael? The Erev Rav. Which historical event corresponds to the Erev Rav? The founding of Israel in 1948. Who are the ones who are in charge of Israel? Mapai, Labour, all these guys, where they schmatted up, right? They took Jews from wherever, from Europe, from Yemen, and they even stole the kids, kidnapped them and so on. All these guys are Erev Rav. And the Satan uses them, that's his guys, to destroy the religion of Klal Yisrael. And they have incredible credibility. And they destroyed. I mean, if you go to Tel Aviv today, you can't believe what goes on there. So you can't believe these guys are Jews. Whatever happened to the religious Jews and so on? That is what the Medina, so to speak, did. So he used the Erev Rav, and that's the dissidence, to destroy the resolve of the enemy, to destroy the resolve of Jews to be from. So since they have this incredible credibility, they destroyed Klal Yisrael. However, did that succeed? No, not at all. Because Jews are coming back, whatever. It didn't destroy Klal Yisrael. So he's desperate, right? So what does he do? The third strategy is to get an ally. But what ally? He's the only one that can be yonik from the Kedusha other than the Jew. There is nobody else. But there is. There's a Maharal that says an incredible concept. The only other nation that can be yonik from Kedusha, from the Rebbeinu Shalom, all nations get their koyach from the Sultan. Right? Because the Sultan is the malach basically of all the umas. Not that they have to always listen to the Sultan, but he has shlita over them in a certain sense. But there's one nation that can derive Yenika from the Rebbeinu Shalom, not to the Sultan, and that is Yishmael. Why? Because it says in the Torah, Avram Avinu was mispal, Yishmael yichyi lefanecha, alavai Yishmael, right, should live before you. What does that mean? That he should live before you and not before the Sultan. Let him derive his koyach straight from you.
Why did he do it?
Who?
Why did he do it?
Why?
Why did he misspell it?
You know, what does a father do for his son?
That's such a song.
Did he know that Yishmael would use it against the Yidden? No. Whatever. Obviously he didn't know, because why would he ever do that? And so on, right? But for whatever reason, whatever his motive was, he did it. And therefore, because he said, Lu Yishmael yichyu lefanecha, alavai Yishmael should live before you, that means he doesn't need the Sultan. And that answers several questions. The koich of Yishmael is not the same koich as everybody else. You see, it's a koich where he can derive, and that's why the name of God only appears by two nations, Yisrael and Yishmael, because both of them have the ability to directly interface with God. Also answer another very interesting question. What is the objective of a Christian? Missionary. To missionize a Jew. Why? Because he needs to, because since his malach is the Sultan needs to be yonik from the chatoim, the sins of the Jew. Therefore he has to get the Jew to become Christian, sin, and then his malach can be yonik. But Yishmael doesn't need a Jews to be sin. What Yishmael wants is they want to what? They want to subdue the Jew, that the Jew should be murder to recognize the superiority of the Arabs. Therefore they don't have to convert the Jews really. That's why there is no real missionary attempt. What their jihad is not so, and that's what the thousands of years that they exist, since, the 1400 years they exist. What their jihad is not that everybody has to believe what they believe, but everybody has to be subjugated, submit to the might of the Arabs. It's interesting, when you look at the two, and that's why they're not into missionary activities, because they don't need the unique of Jews. They're unique straight. What they want is they want to supplant the Jews. That's why, which is interesting, if you want to take over a business, right? There are two ways to destroy business, right? Or to negate somebody else's business. Either you can compete by opening the same store on the same block and offering a better price, or you can buy them out. One of two ways, you see? So Christianity is a competitor. Islam is a buyout. That's the difference. Christianity is a competitor where they say, well, God switched us. Now it's us, not you. You know what I'm saying? We have the Torah, the New Testament. We have the Messiah, our guy in town. And we have the Torah, the New Testament. They're competitors. They want to compete against the Jew. What Yishmael wants to do is he wants to buy us out. Where he says, right, that, hey, you guys have to admit that we are the guys, not you. That Muhammad is the greatest of all the prophets and so on. But in any case, this is what's happening. So therefore, the Sultan goes over to the Malach of Yishmael and he says, listen, we need to talk. We need to have a serious conversation. What is the conversation? Here's the conversation. I'm going. I'm out of here, And he says, well, what are you guys going to do? You'll be the only guy in town. You don't want that, You need an ally like me, the Sultan of Malach Yishmael. So he says to Yishmael, I need your kedusha. I need your koiches, because you yourself have your own yanika. Right? You're the only ones that can be yonik. I need you guys. So what do you think the Malach Yishmael says? No problem. Sounds like a fantastic deal. One condition. What's the condition? The condition is this. Until now, who's your Bechor? It's Edom. We want to be the Bechor. We want to take over the planet. You mask him? No problem. We want to be the Bechor of the Bria. We want to take over the stature of Klal Yisrael. That's what we want. And the Sultan says, no problem. And all of a sudden, what happens is astounding. When does this happen? In Tov Shin Nun, 5,750. What is Tov Shinun? You should know there are many things you could have predicted based on what's called the creation clock. The world is created in 6 days, and on the 7th day is what? The Shabbos. Therefore, the world will last 6,000 years. And the 7th day, the 7,000 year, of course, is the beginning of the transformation to Yom Habo, whatever, and so on. Because the Mashiach comes before the end of 6,000, which is the year 2240, and he ends his reign by the 6,000 year, and then the whole world changes and so on. So therefore, each 1,000 years corresponds to 1 day of creation. Thursday night, 6 p.m., is the beginning of what? Friday. Friday corresponds to the year 5,000. It's the last day of creation, Erev Shabbos. That's why the Zohar says, without getting into the whole thing, that the old Mashiach begins to come down in the year 5,000, which is the English year 1240. And the old Mashiach, Mamash, began to come down in 1240, without getting into that. Now, what that tells us is what? Is that Friday is the beginning of a radical change, which is the English year 1240, because it's the beginning of Erev Shabbos. In Erev Shabbos, you begin to prepare for Shabbos. Now, therefore, if you take a look now, every year corresponds, or rather, every 41 and 2/3 of a year, if I remember correctly, was it 42, corresponds to 1 hour of that clock, creation clock. In any case, 5,750, which was 1989, because we come first, and then in 1990, it's Chatzois. It's 12 o'clock noon. 12 o'clock noon is incredible, because that's when the sun begins to set, never to rise again. You see, begins to set, never to rise again, and all of a sudden the world changes. What changed? Communism dies. Berlin Wall collapses. Germany, reunites and so on. Many things that happen. One of the things that happened is the Intifada. The first Intifada was in 1989. That's what reunites the Arabs. And that was Mamish Chatzois. Interesting. And Chatzois is when the sun begins to set, never to rise again. And then the Intifada began, and so on, which is the beginning of the rise of Yishmael, to break off the yoke of the Jews, and so on. And apparently the deal was made then, because he had failed, and so on. And then you see the incredible rise of the Arabs. The incredible thing is, wherever you look, there are Muslims, there are Arabs all over the world. And the greatest victory of the Sultan is that, who would have believed that the king of Edom is a Muslim? Who is the king, the president of the United States? It's a Muslim. Obama. Obama, what's his first name?
Barack Hussein.
Barack Hussein Obama. How in the world does this guy become president of the United States? And it's a miracle. You have to look at the nest. This man was a nobody from nowhere. His first term in the Senate, he was hardly in the Senate before he became president. He's a community organizer. I mean, we are suffering because he's a community organizer. This man doesn't have a clue as to how to govern. It's obvious. Take a look at what's going on. The amount of scandals is beyond belief and so on. And this is what's happening. So what we are witnessing, and Europe isn't being taken over there by the Muslims, the Arabs and so on. The United States, and of course, what I say the job of Yishmael said to the Sultan, we want to take over, and Obama is destroying the United States. That's what he's doing. That's his job, you see. It's not for nothing. What the Baruch did is incredible. He put in a guy who's basically a closet Muslim. Look, he was born a Muslim, his father was a Muslim, he went to Islam schools and so on, you know, for all the years and so on, still a Muslim. And then he hangs around with what? With guys who are terrorists. It's incredible, this guy. How in the world did he become president of the United States? Because the U.S. has no choice. Edom has to fall. We in the United States is falling. This is what's happening. Okay.
That's bad news, or is it only good news?
No, that's the bad news.
That's the bad news.
Because, like I say, the bad news is Sutton in his desperation. is doing things which are incredible. And therefore what you see is the rise of Islam, destroying Edom. And wherever you look, they are destroying Edom. Look at France. Muslims are taking over France. Do you know 1 out of every 3 births in France is a Muslim?
The number 1 name in England is Muhammad.
Yeah, number 1.
What you're saying makes total sense.
I thought it was Henry.
It's Muhammad.
Or George.
But what you're saying makes total sense and clarifying, and I'm very grateful because I could not figure out how does Sharia law get integrated in civil law in Scandinavia, in Europe, and in the Midwest.
Correct.
This is something that my mind just shut off.
Yeah.
How is Sharia law part of community law in Minnesota someplace?
Because it's not just the Malach of Yishmael. Satan is influencing the Umas Olam to go with Yishmael. Because that's the deal. It's not just, well, Yishmael is taking over because the Malach. No, the Malach of Yishmael doesn't take over. It's a Satan that's in charge of the Umas Olam. So he has now become an ally of the Malach of Yishmael. So guess what? So therefore, all this Islam is now being integrated into Edom, into Christianity.
But how
Which is astounding.
How does Satan agree to Malach of Ishmael destroying his client? Because Ishmael is destroying Edom.
He was dying himself. What choice does he have? He's only got 2% left.
He's going to kill Esau.
You know, guys get 2% left. Doesn't care where he gets his armaments.
But this is also death for him, you know?
What?
This is also death for him because Ishmael is
He's trying
destroying.
to try to, he's not going to commit suicide.
No, he doesn't want to die. Look, you see the exact same thing by Matan Torah when he was about to die. Same thing happened by Matan Torah. Pesach, whatever, getting into all that, the Sultan was about to die by Matan Torah. So what did he do? His last power was he created a vision of Moshe Rabbeinu in a coffin, in the sky. And all Mother says, and Klal Yisrael said, Zeo Ish. He convinced Klal Yisrael that Moshe Rabbeinu was dead. And he's not coming back. But wait a minute, he did that supernaturally. Well, how in the world did he get his power to put a vision in the sky? And the answer is that that's what he can do when he's about to die. Had Klal Yisrael not done the Chet Egel, guess what? He would have been dead. Moshe Rabbeinu would have been Mashiach ben Yosef, and the Luchas Rishonis would have been the Messianic light. Period. That's how close we missed it.
Why is it as though
Anyway.
that the Yishmael is actually allowed to persecute Christians, like they've been doing?
Well, you know what the kings of old used to do when they finally got into power? They killed their brothers, they killed their sisters, they killed any possible competitor. You know, that's what they did. And that's the concept. That's why he kills them all. He doesn't want any of these guys left over, and so on. So, right now, we are at the stage where Yishmael is dominant. And that's why, because of this desperation of the Sultan. That's what's happening now. Now, I have a lot more to go, because you have to understand everything else, ISIS, Ebola, and all that stuff, and what's happening to the Arab world and why it's collapsing, because apparently that's a contradiction, all that, and what's going to happen, and why there's Lapid, the government, and why the 3 kids were kidnapped, and why there's a war. I have all that stuff to go through, but I'm already doing this for 2 hours.
So we'll continue next
Shabbos. So next Shabbos we will continue, except I won't be here for Shabbos, so I want to move it till 9, let's see, when I get back.